I died freezing on a hospital cot, stripped of my family, my fortune, and my fiancée. All thanks to the sweet foster sister my parents took in. But as I took my last agonizing breath, my eyes snapped open. I was back. And this time, I'm the one pulling the strings. The steady, hollow beep of the heart monitor was the only sound in the sterile room. I couldn't move. My lungs felt like they were filled with crushed glass. Standing at the foot of my bed, draped in a flawless Chanel coat that I had originally picked out for myself, was Harper. "Don't fight it, Chloe," she whispered, her voice dripping with that manufactured, sugary innocence that had fooled everyone. She leaned in, her perfectly manicured fingers tracing the edge of my blanket. "It's better this way. Mom and Dad have already signed the estate over to me. And Tristan, he said he can't bear to watch you waste away. We're flying to Paris tonight." I shifted my gaze weakly to the doorway. Tristan Cole, the man I was supposed to marry, the man I had loved since we were teenagers, was standing in the hall, looking at his phone. He didn't even glance my way. "You stole everything," I rasped, the metallic taste of blood pooling in my mouth. Harper just smiled, a terrifying, empty smirk that belonged to a predator who had finally cornered her prey. "I didn't steal it, sweetie. I just played the game better than you. Goodbye, sister." The monitor flatlined. The darkness rushed in, cold and absolute. I closed my eyes, embracing the end of a miserable existence where I was framed for crimes I didn't commit, diagnosed as hysterical, and locked away in a private facility while an imposter hijacked my entire life. Then a sharp intake of breath tore through my lungs. I shot up in bed, gasping, my hands clutching violently at my chest. I wasn't cold. I wasn't dying. I was breathing in the scent of fresh lavender and expensive vanilla. I blinked against the harsh morning sunlight filtering through heavy silk drapes. My breath hitched. This was my bedroom. My old bedroom at my parents' estate in Connecticut, the one Harper had convinced my parents to convert into a guest room after she claimed I needed a change of scenery for my mental health. I threw off the Egyptian cotton duvet and stumbled toward the full-length vintage mirror. The face staring back at me wasn't gaunt, bruised, or dying. It was young. My skin was glowing, my cheeks were full, and my eyes were bright with shock. I scrambled to the nightstand and snatched my phone. September 14th, 2022. My knees gave out, and I sank to the plush carpet. I had gone back. I had jumped back exactly 4 years. I remembered this date with sickening clarity. It was the day of the Autumn Charity Gala, the exact day my descent into hell officially began. In my previous life, September 14th was the day Harper laid her first major trap. She had ripped her own cheap dress, crying to my mother, Beatrice, that I had done it out of jealousy. Later that evening, my mother's priceless heirloom, the sapphire rose brooch, mysteriously vanished, only to be found in my vanity drawer. That night, my parents looked at me not with love, but with disgust. It was the night Harper cemented herself as the sweet, victimized saint, and I was labeled the spoiled, unhinged bully. I pressed my forehead against the cool hardwood floor, a hysterical laugh bubbling up in my throat. The universe had given me a reset button. Harper thought she was a master manipulator. She had no idea she was about to step into a ring with a ghost who already knew her entire playbook. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. "Chloe, are you awake, sweetie?" It was her. Harper. I took a deep breath, wiped the manic grin off my face, and opened the door. There she stood, looking like a fragile porcelain doll in her oversized pastel sweater. Harper was the daughter of my father's late, disgraced business partner. My parents, Richard and Beatrice Davenport, took her in when we were 17 to clear their consciences. "Good morning, Harper," I said, keeping my voice impeccably neutral. "I just wanted to see what you were wearing tonight," she murmured, looking down at her scuffed slippers. "I don't really have anything nice. I was hoping so. Maybe I could borrow something. But I know you hate when I touch your things." There it is, I thought. The setup. In my past life, I had snapped at her, telling her to stay out of my closet because she ruined a silk blouse the week before. She had recorded that interaction on her phone and played it for Tristan. This time, I smiled warmly. "Of course, Harper. In fact, I have the perfect dress for you. I bought it last month, but the color suits your complexion much better than mine." Her eyes widened, a flicker of genuine confusion breaking her carefully crafted mask. "Really?" "Absolutely. Come in." I walked into my massive walk-in closet and pulled out a stunning, deep emerald gown by Oscar de la Renta. It was worth more than her father's entire estate. "Try it on. It's yours." She took it hesitantly, searching my eyes for the trap. "Thank you, Chloe." "Don't mention it," I said, my smile never wavering. "We're sisters after all." As she turned to leave, clutching the dress, I felt a cold surge of adrenaline. I knew exactly what she was going to do. She was going to cut a jagged tear into the back of that exquisite gown, hide the scissors in my bathroom, and run crying to my mother. But this time, I wasn't just going to let it happen. I walked over to my desk, opened the bottom drawer, and pulled out a tiny, discreet nanny cam I had bought weeks ago to monitor our new housekeeper, whom I suspected of stealing my perfume. I walked into my private bathroom, placed the camera inconspicuously behind a bottle of expensive bath salts, and angled it perfectly toward the counter. "Checkmate, Harper. Let the games begin." The house was buzzing with caterers, florists, and event planners. The Autumn Charity Gala was the Davenport family's crown jewel, an event that commanded the attendance of New England's elite. I spent the afternoon with my best friend, Piper Evans. Piper was the only person in my past life who saw right through Harper. Because of that, Harper meticulously orchestrated a campaign to frame Piper for drug possession, forcing Piper's wealthy family to send her to rehab in Europe, effectively isolating me. "You're acting weird today, Chloe," Piper said, sipping a mimosa as my makeup artist applied the finishing touches to my eyeliner. "You're usually a nervous wreck before your mother's parties. Today you look like you're about to execute a corporate takeover." I smirked, looking at my reflection. I wore a sleek, silver slip dress that made me look like liquid mercury. "Just feeling confident, Pipes. Hey, do me a favor tonight." "Anything?" "Keep your phone charged. And if you see Harper lingering near my mother's private study, text me immediately." Piper raised an eyebrow but nodded. She didn't need explanations. Her loyalty was absolute. "Got it. The stray dog is up to something." Something like that. At exactly 6 p.m., an hour before guests were set to arrive, a piercing wail echoed from the second-floor hallway. I dismissed my makeup artist and stepped out of my room just in time to see my mother, Beatrice, rushing out of the master suite. "What on earth is happening?" my mother demanded, clutching her pearl necklace. Harper was standing at the top of the stairs, sobbing violently. She was wearing the emerald Oscar de la Renta gown, but the entire back zipper seam had been savagely ripped open, leaving the fabric hanging in jagged, ruined shreds. My father, Richard, emerged from his study, frowning. "Harper? Good God, child, what happened to your dress?" I don't know," Harper cried, burying her face in her hands. "I left it in my room while I took a shower, and when I came back, it was destroyed. It was the beautiful dress Chloe gave me." She trailed off, letting the implication hang heavily in the air. My mother's head snapped toward me, her eyes narrowing. "Chloe, did you do this?" In my past life, this was the moment I exploded. I had screamed, called Harper a liar and a psycho, which only made me look guilty and unstable. This time, I gasped, pressing my hands to my mouth in perfectly feigned horror. "Oh my God, Harper, your beautiful dress!" I rushed over to her, completely ignoring my mother's accusation. "Who would do such a terrible thing?" Harper stiffened as I hugged her. She wasn't expecting sympathy. "Mom, we have to find out what happened," I said, turning to Beatrice with wide, concerned eyes. "The staff has been moving in and out all day." "But wait," I paused, tapping my chin thoughtfully. "Harper, you said you were in your bathroom when this happened. Did you lock your door?" Yes," Harper stammered, clearly thrown off by my calm demeanor. "But someone must have snuck in." "That's impossible," I said gently. "Your bathroom connects to mine, and I was in my room the entire time getting ready. Nobody came through." "Well, maybe they came through your room," Harper countered quickly, her eyes darting to my father to garner sympathy. "Maybe someone who was angry that I got such a beautiful dress." My father sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Chloe, if this is some sort of sick prank—" "Dad, I would never," I said firmly. "But actually, this might be easy to solve. I installed a small security camera in my bathroom yesterday because I thought one of the temporary maids was stealing my cosmetics. It points directly at the connecting door to Harper's room. If someone snuck in, we'll have them on video." The color completely drained from Harper's face. She looked like she was going to vomit. "A camera?" my mother repeated, surprised. "Yes," I smiled brightly. "Let's go check the footage right now. We can catch the vandal before the guests arrive." "No," Harper blurted out, her voice a little too loud, a little too panicked. My parents stared at her. "I mean," Harper swallowed hard, forcing a watery smile. "We don't have time. The guests are arriving. It's just a dress. I don't want to cause a scene." "Nonsense," my father said, his business instincts kicking in. "If we have a rogue staff member destroying property, I want to know. Pull up the footage, Chloe." I pulled out my phone, navigating to the app. I didn't even need to go back far. I cast the video directly to the smart TV in the hallway sitting area. The screen flickered to life. It showed my pristine marble bathroom. The connecting door to Harper's room was wide open. And there, in crystal clear HD, was Harper. She was standing by my sink, holding the emerald dress. With a calm, almost bored expression, she took a pair of my heavy styling shears and violently hacked at the zipper of the dress. She then threw the scissors into my trash can, ruffled her own hair, and began to forcefully squeeze out tears before running out of frame. Silence fell over the hallway. It was so quiet, you could hear a pin drop on the thick carpet. My mother stared at the screen, her mouth slightly parted in shock. My father's jaw was clenched so tight a muscle ticked in his cheek. I looked at Harper. She was trembling, staring at the floor. Trapped. "Harper," my mother whispered, her voice laced with confusion and betrayal. Why would you do that? I... Harper stuttered, her sweet facade violently cracking. I felt so ugly next to Chloe. She's so perfect, and I just wanted you guys to notice me, to feel sorry for me. It was a brilliant pivot. Play the insecure orphan card. But the seed of doubt was firmly planted. My parents were looking at her not as a helpless victim, but as a liar. "We will discuss this unhinged behavior tomorrow," my father said coldly, turning his back on her. "Go put on something appropriate. You are embarrassing yourself." As my parents walked away, I stepped close to Harper. She glared at me, all the fake tears gone, her eyes burning with pure, unadulterated hatred. "You really think you're smart, don't you?" she hissed under her breath. I leaned in, my lips brushing her ear. "I don't think I'm smart, Harper. I just know exactly what you are. And I promise you, this is only the beginning. Enjoy the party." I turned on my heel and walked downstairs, feeling lighter than I had in 2 lifetimes. As I reached the foyer, the grand doors opened, and the first guests began to filter in. Among them was Tristan Cole. He looked exactly as I remembered him. Tall, effortlessly handsome, with that wealthy, arrogant smirk that used to make my heart flutter. In my past life, I would have run up to him, desperately clinging to his arm, begging for his validation. Tonight, he spotted me and flashed a charming smile, stepping forward to greet me. I didn't stop. I didn't smile. I locked eyes with him for exactly 1 second, my gaze utterly dead and devoid of any affection, and walked right past him to greet the mayor. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Tristan freeze, his hand hovering awkwardly in the air, completely bewildered. I smiled to myself. I wasn't just going to destroy Harper. I was going to systematically dismantle everyone who ever betrayed me. And the night was still young. The grand ballroom of the Davenport estate was a sea of bespoke tuxedos, glittering chandeliers, and the intoxicating scent of expensive champagne. The elite of New England were gathered, including a few prominent real-life figures like Jonathan Tish, adding an air of undeniable gravity to the autumn charity gala. In my past life, I had hidden in the corners of this room, paralyzed by the rumors Harper had so carefully planted about my sanity. Tonight, I owned the floor. I glided through the crowd in my silver slip dress, radiating a cold, impenetrable confidence that left whispers in my wake. It didn't take long for Tristan to corner me near the ice sculpture. He looked phenomenal, his tailored suit accentuating his broad shoulders, but the arrogance in his eyes turned my stomach. "Chloe," he murmured, his voice adopting that low, intimate register he always used when he wanted something. He reached out to touch the bare skin of my arm. "You walked right past me earlier. You look incredible tonight. Breathtaking, actually. But you seem distant. Is everything all right with you and Harper?" She was crying in the parlor. I smoothly stepped back, letting his hand drop to his side. "Harper is dealing with the consequences of her own clumsiness, Tristan, and I am perfectly fine. In fact, I've never seen things more clearly." His brow furrowed, unused to being dismissed. Before he could deploy another manipulative compliment, a sudden, piercing shriek shattered the elegant hum of the gala. The string quartet abruptly stopped playing. The crowd parted like the Red Sea, revealing Harper collapsed on the polished marble floor near the grand staircase. She was clutching her chest, gasping wildly for air, her face pale. My mother rushed to her side, screaming for someone to call an ambulance, while my father barked orders at the security team. "I can't breathe," Harper wailed, her body convulsing in a dramatic display of agony. My heart. It hurts so much. Tristan surged forward, playing the heroic protector, kneeling beside her. Harper! Just hold on. Help is coming. I watched the spectacle with absolute disgust. This was her backup plan. Having failed to frame me for the ruined dress, she was now attempting to hijack the sympathy of the entire room by faking a catastrophic medical emergency. In my past life, her collapse had been blamed on the extreme stress I supposedly caused her, leading to my first involuntary psychiatric hold. Not this time. I pushed through the crowd of horrified billionaires and socialites. Step aside, I commanded, my voice slicing through the panic with absolute authority. Chloe, not now, my mother sobbed. Can't you see she's having a heart attack? She isn't having a heart attack, Mother, I stated coldly, dropping to my knees beside my thrashing foster sister. During my previous timeline, locked away in a private clinical facility, I had spent years reading discarded medical journals and textbooks to maintain my sanity. I had obsessively studied the rigorous triage protocols of the intensive care unit and the emergency department procedures at Walter Reed. I knew exactly what high-stakes medical trauma looked like, and this pathetic theatrical performance wasn't it. I grabbed Harper's wrist in a vice grip. She tried to pull away, but I held firm, pressing my fingers firmly against her radial artery. Let go of me, she cried, her breathing frantic. Her pulse is 72 beats per minute and perfectly regular, I announced loudly, projecting my voice so the entire ballroom could hear. No tachycardia, no arrhythmia. Chloe, what are you doing? Tristan demanded, reaching for my shoulder. I slapped his hand away without looking at him. I leaned over Harper, forcibly holding her chin and peeling back her eyelids. She squirmed, but the crowd was watching, paralyzed by my absolute command of the situation. Pupils are equal, round, and reactive to light, I continued, falling into the clinical rhythm of a surgical theater assessment. Capillary refill is under 2 seconds, indicating flawless oxygen perfusion. There is no cyanosis around the lips or nail beds, no diaphoresis. Her Glasgow coma scale is a perfect 15. I stood up, wiping my hands on a napkin from a passing tray, as if I had just touched something foul. I looked down at Harper, who had suddenly stopped thrashing, realizing with dawning horror that I was clinically dismantling her act in front of the most powerful people in the state. She isn't experiencing myocardial infarction or any form of cardiovascular distress, I said, my voice echoing in the silent room. She is throwing a temper tantrum because she ruined her own dress earlier and wants attention. Get up, Harper. You're embarrassing the family. The silence that followed was deafening. The gathered elite exchanged shocked, uncomfortable glances. The mayor cleared his throat, looking away. Jonathan Tish took a slow sip of his champagne, his eyebrows raised in quiet amusement. My father's face turned an ugly shade of purple. He grabbed Harper by the upper arm and hauled her to her feet. She wasn't gasping anymore. She looked like a cornered rat. Richard, my mother whispered, her voice trembling with mortification. To my study. Now, my father hissed at Harper, his voice venomous. He turned to the crowd, forcing a strained, humiliating smile. Please, everyone, accept my deepest apologies for this unfortunate disruption. The music will resume shortly. As Harper was dragged away in disgrace, Tristan stood up, looking completely, utterly lost. He looked at me as if he were seeing a stranger. How did you know all that? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. I stepped close to him, my silver dress catching the light. I know a lot of things, Tristan. I know how to spot a fake condition, and I know how to spot a fake man. I turned my back on him and walked toward the terrace. The night air was cool, but the fire burning inside my chest was magnificent. Harper's social execution was complete, but the financial execution was scheduled for tomorrow. The following morning, the atmosphere in the Davenport estate was practically glacial. Harper had been confined to her room, and my parents were locked in a hushed, furious argument in the dining room. But I had no time to revel in the tension. Mr. Harrison, the formidable family attorney, had just arrived. I requested a formal meeting in my father's private study. When my parents and Harper, who looked exhausted and completely stripped of her usual sickly sweet veneer, arrived, I was already seated across from Mr. Harrison. "What is the meaning of this, Chloe?" my father demanded, rubbing his temples. "I'm not in the mood for games today. The fallout from last night's stunt is already a public relations nightmare." "This isn't a game, Dad," I said calmly. "It's about Grandfather Arthur's estate." Harper's head snapped up. In my past life, it was revealed around this time that Harper had secretly manipulated my father into granting her the primary beneficiary status of my grandfather's liquid trust, claiming I was too unstable to handle the wealth. It had been the financial death blow that allowed her to steal my life. "Arthur's estate is settled," my father said sharply. "The liquid assets were transferred to the primary holding accounts yesterday." "Yes," Harper chimed in, her voice meek but laced with a desperate, grasping greed. "Richard handled it perfectly." Mr. Harrison adjusted his glasses, looking uncomfortably at my father. "Actually, Richard, it appears there was a secondary codicil to your father's will, one that was sealed and heavily protected, only to be triggered upon a specific date. Today." My father frowned, sinking into a leather armchair. "A secondary codicil? Arthur never mentioned anything of the sort to me." "Your father was a very secretive man," Mr. Harrison said, opening a thick, leather-bound folder. "He left specific instructions that this addendum was to be read exclusively in the presence of Chloe, as she is the sole beneficiary of his remaining undisclosed assets." Harper's face drained of color. "What undisclosed assets? Richard, you said the trust was the entirety of it." "Be quiet, Harper," my mother snapped, still furious from the gala. "Mr. Harrison." "Proceed," I said, a slow, predatory smile touching my lips. "Arthur Davenport retained ownership of a defunct commercial property in upstate New York," Mr. Harrison read, sliding a stack of heavy, yellowed deeds across the mahogany desk. "The abandoned Roosevelt Grand Hotel." My father let out a harsh bark of laughter. "That old ruin? It's been derelict since the late 80s. It's a liability, not an asset. It's full of asbestos and rotting wood. If Arthur left that to Chloe, she's inheriting a massive tax burden." Harper visibly relaxed, a cruel, mocking smirk pulling at the corners of her mouth. She thought I had won a pile of dirt. "You would be correct, Richard, if it were merely an abandoned hotel," Mr. Harrison corrected, his tone turning incredibly grave. "However, the codicil includes a schematic and an access cipher. The Roosevelt Grand Hotel is a historical facade. Beneath the basement level lies a fully functional, heavily fortified, subterranean bunker built during the height of the Cold War. Your father spent the last 3 decades privately retrofitting it." The room went dead silent. "A bunker?" my mother repeated, completely bewildered. "Yes," Mr. Harrison said, "and according to this sealed manifest, the bunker serves as a private off-the-grid vault. It houses an estimated $400 million in unregistered bearer bonds, as well as the physical golden shares that dictate the absolute controlling interest of the Davenport global empire." He bypassed the digital banking system entirely. My father stopped breathing. Harper looked like she had just been struck by lightning. "The trust fund you transferred to the holding accounts yesterday, Richard," Mr. Harrison continued mercilessly. Those were decoy funds. The true Davenport fortune and the ultimate legal control of your entire corporate enterprise is locked inside that bunker. And as of this morning, Chloe is the sole legal owner of the property, the vault, and every single asset within it. "No!" Harper screamed, completely breaking character. She lunged forward, her hands slamming against the desk. "That's impossible! He wouldn't do that! He promised me—" She caught herself, clamping her hand over her mouth, but it was too late. My father stood up slowly, his eyes locked on Harper with terrifying realization. "He promised you? My father hasn't spoken to you in 5 years. Have you been forging correspondence with his estate lawyers behind my back?" Harper trembled violently, backing away as my father advanced on her. "Richard, I can explain. Please. You manipulated him. You manipulated all of us," my father roared, the last piece of the puzzle finally falling into place. I sat back in my chair, crossing my legs elegantly. In my past life, Harper had used those decoy funds to buy the board and oust my father, tossing my parents into bankruptcy while I rotted in a cell. Today, she was entirely powerless. "Mr. Harrison," I said softly, interrupting my father's rage, "I'd like to draft an eviction notice. Harper has until noon to pack whatever she can fit into a single suitcase and vacate my property. She is cut off from all family accounts, effective immediately." "You can't do this to me!" Harper shrieked, tears of genuine panic streaming down her face. She looked at my mother. "Mom, please." My mother turned her face away, weeping quietly in shame. "It's already done, Harper," I whispered, standing up and leaning over the desk to look directly into her terrified eyes. "You wanted my life. Now you get to see what it feels like to have absolutely nothing. Security will escort you out." As Harper was dragged from the room, kicking and screaming, I looked at the heavy brass key Mr. Harrison placed on the desk. The key to the subterranean vault. The key to my absolute freedom. The rebirth had given me a second chance, and I had used it to forge an empire. Can you believe the absolute genius of Chloe's revenge? She didn't just expose Harper's pathetic lies. She completely secured the hidden Davenport fortune. If you loved watching Harper get utterly destroyed and banished from the family with nothing, hit that like button, share this intense drama with your friends, and subscribe to the channel right now. Drop a comment below telling us what you think Chloe should do with the bunker's millions. See you in the next story.